right, guys, glad to have you here at the Heart of Business. So usually the way that I start my day, right? First thing is I get in the shower and I turn on my my Google Chrome, not the Google Chrome, what is it? The Google, whatever the smart speaker is, right? I turn that thing on and I say, hey Google, let's listen to a sermon, right? And so what I do is I listen to sermons like people listen to music, actually, right? So I'll listen to a sermon in the shower, in the car, while I'm driving, right? Just because I can't get enough of learning about the Lord, right? So today I was listening to a sermon by R.C. Sproul, very famous pastor, right? Reformed theologian. That doesn't really matter. The point is that what he said, what actually he was talking about, was Alice in Wonderland and the Cheshire Cat. And I was like, this relates so much to business owners that I can't not show it. And so we're going to watch just a short video from Alice in Wonderland. Oops. Come on.
Was brilliant, and the slimy toad said he'd beguile and bell in the wind.
Why, you're a cat.
A Cheshire cat, all a mimsy. Oh, what the water goes.
Oh, wait. Don't go, please.
Very well. Third course.
Oh, no. Thank you, but I just wanted to ask you which way I ought to go.
Well, that depends on where you want to get to.
Oh, it really doesn't matter. As long as I can...
Then it really doesn't matter which way you go. Oh, by the way, if you'd really like to know, he went that way.
Who did?
The White Rabbit.
He did?
He did what?
Wait, that...
Who did?
The White Rabbit.
What rabbit?
But didn't you just say... I mean, oh, dear.
Can you stand on your head? However, if I were looking for a white rabbit, I'd ask the Mad Hatter.
Mad Hatter? No, I don't...
Or there's the March Hare in that direction.
Well, thank you. I think I shall visit him.
Of course, he's mad too.
But I don't want to go among mad people.
Oh, you can't help that. Most everyone's mad here. You may have noticed that I'm not all there myself.
So I think that in business it can feel like that all the time, right? First of all, we're trying to figure out which way we're trying to go, right? And then because we're looking for a white hare, and then we ask somebody, and it turns out that they're crazy, they're mad, right? And it turns out, oh, well, you're not going to go anywhere without dealing with mad people. What do you know, right? And I think that that's, in our experience, that's kind of the case. Did anybody see a bad driver on the road today, on their way in?
Yes.
Yeah? Well, yeah. Yeah, I mean, can you believe that at 7 a.m. when it's still dark out, in the rain, you're still seeing bad drivers, right? And so you're there, no matter where you go, you're going to see people who are going to make you frustrated. But the point of this really, to me, is that you need to figure out where you're going to go. So we talked a couple weeks ago about real estate and purchasing real estate, buying your first home, and getting married, right? The thing that those have in common was planning, right? We had to decide that we wanted to do something. We decided how we wanted to do it, and then we had to plan And we had to execute on that for a long time, actually. You don't just buy a house overnight. You don't just, sometimes you get married overnight, right? But I don't even think that that's something that Lynn would encourage, because I actually told her one time, I said, I know some people who got married overnight, and she says, I don't know about that. But anyways, what really spoke to me, right, is that we need to know where we're going to go before we decide that we're going to go somewhere. In business, a lot of times we just kind of feel like Alice, right? We come up to a tree, and there's all these signs that point everywhere. How many options did she have? Too many, right? And so it's funny, you ask some people that and they'll say 2 options because they're like, oh, there were 2 paths. But if you look at all the signs, there was one that says go back, right? There was one that said stay here. There was one that said climb up the tree, and there's all these different paths, right? And so to be able to figure out what path you're going to take and what you're going to go down and what your goals are going to be, you need to figure out what your goals are, actually. So with that being said, this is a little bit different of a presentation today. This is more of like a New York Life presentation instead of like the presentations I've been giving the past couple weeks or that we've been giving the past couple weeks, but I think this is super valuable. So this presentation is geared towards women business owners specifically. I don't think that it should be, because I think that all of the information in here is totally 100% universal. I'm glad that Mike's here because he's going to keep me honest. So today's agenda, I just want to provide you guys information that makes you feel empowered, basically. Not trying to sell you guys anything, not trying to say that New York Life is the best. It really has nothing to do with New York Life, but this is kind of our philosophy when it comes to business and finance. There's a workbook that goes with it. I don't think you guys need the workbook. If you'd like a workbook, go ahead and ask me and I'll get you one. Basically, the first thing and the only thing that's really spoken about in women in this whole presentation is that women are in business. There are more women in business than ever. More women are making decisions in their financial household as well. And I think that's a really cool thing. I also think that's a really dangerous thing. And the reason why is because women definitely should be able to make their decisions and have more power. But what that also means is that more men are taking a back seat to what they're doing, right? And I think that both the people in the household, both of the spouses, need to have a relatively equal amount of say. And so while I think this is awesome, I think that we need to make sure that the men are not taking a back seat when it comes to finances and it comes to making decisions. So this is just a simple pyramid. I'm sure Mike's seen this 100 times, right? But this is just your standard of living. Luxury is like I can afford all the things that I want whenever I want. Comfort is like I can afford most of the things that I want, but I can't afford everything. Getting by is like, hey, I can afford some things, but sometimes it's tough. Bare necessities means I don't get anything extra that I want. We're just eating and we're living. And charity basically means that you're either one of 2 things. You're either a 2-year-old or a 20-year-old, because those are the only people who live off of their parents. So if you were to say where you were, out of these 5 areas, I would be willing to guess that 95% of you are going to put yourself right where the Smith family is, right? You're probably feeling like you're comfortable and you have a lot of comforts and a lot of extra luxuries in life, but you're probably not living in the lap of luxury. So some of the things that kind of take you out of that lap of luxury as a business owner or as a person in general is taxes and inflation. Those are outside sources that we all have to deal with. How did inflation affect you guys these past couple years? I actually have a sign-in sheet right here. We're going to use this one today. Just got to put your name. Don't have to put your phone number or anything else, because I already know how to contact every single one of you. So most of us, like I said, would be here in comfort. Inflation and taxes, that's something that affects all of us universally when it happens, right? So if taxes go up, we all pay more taxes. If inflation happens, we all buy less stuff. Death is something that happens to everybody, but it's something that happens to everybody individually, right? So while that may not be something that's universally affecting everybody right now, a death can really affect you very highly. Disability and retirement, those are once again things that are individual, and they may not happen to everybody as far as disability goes or even as far as retirement goes, but they are things that you need to plan for. So you guys as business owners have a ton going on. Not only are you probably parents, you're managing a business, you're managing employees, you're managing your household, you're managing your funds, you're managing this inflation, you're managing taxes, you're managing your relationships, right? And so you guys are doing a great job at doing that, but I think that it can be done just a little bit better. So the 5 areas that I'm just going to talk about real briefly today, or actually the 4 areas, are risk management, investment strategies, retirement, and estate planning. So this is stuff you guys probably all know, but if you don't, let's just go over it again. Most advisors or most people just in general, the blanket knowledge is you need to have 3 to 6 months of expenses covered. That needs to be your emergency fund. That's the first thing that you should probably be doing as soon as you're independent. We all know we need to control our credit cards, we need to control our spending history, we need to control our budget, right? The thing that I don't think that we're very good at is I don't think we're very good at setting specific goals, right? So the area that I'm talking about today is just setting specific goals. This doesn't mean setting specific goals with Cody. This doesn't mean, New York life. This just means that you guys need to have very specific goals when it comes to what you want to accomplish. Otherwise, you're going to be like Alice, and you're going to run into the Cheshire Cat, and you're going to be even more confused. What question should Alice have asked instead of where should I go? What was she trying to accomplish? She wanted to find the white rabbit. Right? She was chasing the white rabbit. And now she had a whole reason for chasing the white rabbit is she was trying to get home and she thought that would get her home. However, she didn't ask where's the white rabbit, she asked where do I need to go? But her real goal was to find the white rabbit, right? This is something that if you're a business owner, you probably know this bottom one. Cash flow is income minus expenses. You probably don't pay attention as much to your net worth, but that's assets minus liabilities. There are 2 types of people in the world. They spend first and they save last, or they save first and they spend last. Can you remember when you transitioned? If you did, can you remember when you transitioned from being here to here? Or are you still here? And if you're still here, why are you still here? Because I think the overwhelming knowledge, right, is that we need to be here. We need to be the type of person who saves first and spends last. And the reason why is because we can have more if we're saving first and we're spending last. We can prepare ourselves for the unexpected if we're saving first and we're spending last. Sometimes it feels like we can have more fun if we spend first, and I tell my wife all the time, like every time I see an Amazon package show up, it just hurts me on the inside, Just like you guys were saying about, obsolescence, right? There's planned obsolescence and things now. So when my wife says, hey, I want to buy a sewing machine is the thing right now. She's like, I want to get a new sewing machine. And I'm like, your mom has one from like 1970 something. And she's like, I don't want that old thing. I want the new one that does the things and the things. And I'm like, yeah, but the new one that does the things and the things won't do them very long. So once again, it just comes down to your needs versus your wants, right? Your needs are basic expenses. Your wants are things that you actually, that are luxuries, discretionary expenses, as we say. So I just want you to think on your own, where are you now as far as an emergency fund? Are you any of these numbers? Are you farther than any of these numbers? So I just want to go over what an emergency fund is. If I want to go to Las Vegas, should I spend my emergency fund on that?
Unless you have a family member there who's about to pass away and that's the motivation for the trip.
Okay, that was exactly the question I was going to ask was,
You brought in a ringer. She's a ringer. She had the answer.
what if,
I have a lot of family in Las Vegas.
there you go. What if mom or dad dies? What if one of your kids get married all of a sudden and they elope in Las Vegas, right? Then
Send him to the hitching post.
then is it wise to spend your emergency fund on that? No? Why not? Because let's say we're driving down to Las Vegas and we've bought our hotel and we've got our money for our gas and we've got our present for the marriage or we've got our arrangement for the funeral, right? And then the car breaks down. Then should we spend our emergency fund? That's all you got, right? And so your emergency fund, I'm not telling you what you should or shouldn't spend your emergency fund on, but you should think very specifically about what it is for and what it isn't for. Because most of the time, people tend to say, I have an emergency fund, and then when they run out of their favorite bag of potato chips, or they decide they want cookies, or they want to go to Dairy Queen, or they want to go to Candle in the Woods like me and spend $500 out of my emergency fund, not a good thing, right? And so just once again, I want you to be very specific about what your emergency fund is and what it isn't. Risk management. Hey guys, did you know that I do life insurance? Did you think we were going to talk about life insurance today? Okay, so real simple guys, these are all things that I do other than auto and home, right? So your emergency fund, I can help you figure that out. Life insurance, please come to me. Health insurance, I don't sell health insurance, but I'm registered. I've taken all the classes. I know what to do with health insurance. I know how to find health insurance. And I can tell you the one rule of health insurance, have adequate coverage. That's the only rule, right? I don't care how much it costs. Have adequate coverage, because it's going to cost more if you don't have good coverage. Disability insurance, long-term care. Auto and home, I know a guy. So once again, what's your emergency fund? Your emergency fund is only for emergencies. Life insurance, talked about that. You guys know about life insurance, you know about group, and you know about term life insurance, right? So group, there's no underwriting, you can automatically get approved. So if you don't have life insurance right now, and you work for a company, or you know somebody who doesn't have life insurance and they get paid W-2, they probably have the ability to get $50,000 worth of life insurance from their employer, which is better than nothing, especially if they're a parent. Personal life insurance, usually you can save some money there, especially if you're healthy. You get your own personal underwriting, so if you are a healthy person, you actually get a huge discount. So how much life insurance do I need? The general rule of thumb says that you need at least 7 times your annual gross income. Does that sound right to anybody? Does anybody agree with that? That it actually does sound like a lot.
It doesn't sound like very much. I think we need to do more.
From an outside perspective, it does sound like a lot.
It depends, because I mean, if you have no dependents, that's probably fine.
What if I'm going to retire next year?
Right.
Then do I need 7 times my annual income for life insurance?
Probably not.
If my mortgage is paid off? Not necessarily.
But if you're a young family and you're the sole breadwinner,
You might need 30 times your income.
yeah, like if you're gonna pass away and leave a wife and a child and a mortgage and 2 car payments, and she doesn't have a job and maybe hasn't worked in 3 years, I think, yeah.
Boy,
When you have kids, in my opinion, when you have kids, you should have 20 years of expected expenses. So that's what I did. I took $100,000, multiplied it by 20. It's by 20 years from now, my kids will be out of the house.
Yeah.
And I'll have money in the bank and that kind of thing. And so I picked $2 million back when I bought mine,
Mike, grab the mic.
I knew that my kids were going to need 20.
Yeah.
So anyway,
so
And I don't know if your annual gross income, because certainly if something like that were to happen, your household could live on less. If you're making $100,000 a year, they probably could live on $75,000.
right?
But you need.
Not with inflation. 7 years, I mean, even if it is 8%, which it's not.
Yeah, I mean, 7 seems grossly inadequate to me for a young family, but more than enough for a retired person.
Wow, you guys, this is like smoking crack right now for me. This is great. So basically, you guys, I absolutely hate that rule, and I would never use something like that with one of my clients. I think that would be malpractice to just say the general rule of thumb is this, right?
Yeah.
Now, I could tell you, hey, the general rule of thumb is this, but I won't follow that. And the reason why is because, so let's look at the other ways. Earning potential. So earning potential just says kind of what Mike said, right? Which was, hey, I earn $100,000 a year. I'm going to need it for X amount of years. The kids will be out of the house. They'll be grown. It'll take care of the expenses. Good to go, right? That is better than a general rule of thumb. But the only way that I would ever estimate life insurance or even your retirement benefits is by finding your needs. Okay? I think a needs analysis is the only true way to go. And the reason why is because we just don't think about all of the extras, right? So we talked about inflation. We just, where am I going to be in 5 years? I don't know. I don't have a magic ball. I can't predict the future. But I can tell you if I do the math, I can figure out, well, this would be enough to make sure we were good for the things that we need. So mortgage protection, right? It's going to pay off my house. What about paying for groceries for everybody? Is my wife or husband going to have to be reintroduced into the workforce? How long are they going to have to grieve and literally not leave the house before they can work again? It's different for everybody, right? Kids in college or little kids. I mean, I think my 3-year-old, right, if mom passed away today, I got to be there for him, right?
Yeah.
Because he can't, his whole world would just absolutely collapse, right? Exactly. The 1-year-old may not feel the same impact, but the 3-year-old definitely would, right? And so I wouldn't be able to come to Heart of Business every week and talk and go to school and teach and then go to work, right? I just couldn't do it. So I think that the only correct way, which I'm actually meeting with Deb and Leo's daughter later today, and this is exactly what we plan to do today, is go over their life insurance needs, as well as their investment needs. So this is just a simple way that you would say, here, my X income, right? This is a chart that a lot of your, if you just go to a property casualty, I do all the insurance, right? That's kind of what you get is they say, hey, you make $2,000 a month, you're 25, you need $3 million. If you're 55 and you make $8,000 a month, you need 1.3, right? That's kind of how they would give it to you. So that's kind of the real plug there between me and the other guy, or me and our competitors, is that we're going to do a needs analysis. Health insurance. Once again, like I said, the only thing that I want to tell you is have adequate coverage. Disability insurance. So let's just go back to the car driving to work real quick. Does anybody remember the guys who were like driving on the wrong side of I-90? You don't remember that? That happened like 6 times this summer. I don't know why, but it happened like 6 times this summer. Okay. Some people were. Sometimes it was senior citizens who were confused. Sometimes it was drunk people. Sometimes it was suicidal people. Okay, driving 70 miles an hour the wrong way down I-90, right? And most of them resulted in a crash. Has anybody in the last week or two driven on I-90 or 95 and you've seen a crash or you've seen somebody getting pulled over or something like that? Sometimes I drive into Coeur d'Alene and I see 3 crashes a day, okay? So my point to that is I'm not trying to doom and gloom you. I'm not trying to guilt you into buying disability insurance. But the fact of the matter is you just can't control what's going to happen to you. We tend to think like, oh, well, I'm a financial advisor, right? I'm not going to get injured on the job. That's probably true, right? But the chances of you getting in a car wreck, somebody hitting you, something else happening, and then you're injured and your car's broken and you can't make money and you're raising kids and you're trying to run a business, it's really important that you have disability insurance if you can afford it. 1 in 4 Americans are going to be disabled at some point and they're going to need to rely on disability insurance. Long-term care insurance, last thing I'm going to talk about here. Basically, the one thing that I really want you guys to know about long-term care insurance is we think that Medicaid or Medicare will cover that, right? It really doesn't. So Medicaid will cover 100 days in a facility, right? That's it. After 100 days, you're out, whether or not you're dying. Medicaid will cover only once you have no money. They will put you in a hospice home of their choosing. No choice whatsoever. So you're going to be basically in prison for old people. Go ahead.
That's Medicare, right?
That's Medicaid.
I thought Medicare was for the elderly.
Medicare is for the elderly or for people who are disabled. Medicaid is for people who have no money.
Yeah.
Right? So Medicaid kicks in once you have no money and you basically, like I said, their facilities are like prison for sick old people, right? Because it's basically a room that you share with somebody else. You get a blanket that's not comfortable. You get a bed that's been used by 100 people to die in, right? Nobody comes and visits you. The people there make $15 an hour, just the same as the people working at McDonald's, and you don't trust them with your hamburger, right? So don't trust them with your parents. Don't trust them with you.
McDonald's makes more at this point.
McDonald's makes more at this point, but I know people who are in my family who make $15 to $18 an hour working in those nursing facilities, and I'm sorry, the level of care that you're going to get from a person, even if they're a great person, is not the same as if they're getting paid an adequate wage. And the people who and basically everybody will need long-term care unless they die young, right? 70% of Americans are going to be in a long-term care facility for at least 18 months. So once again, just know the facts. Long-term care, going to go by that. Oh, investment strategies. Okay, I lied. We got a couple more things to talk about. We're almost done though. This is investment 101, right? This is like if you go talk to somebody, these are the things that they're going to teach you 100% of the time. High risk is high reward, low risk is low reward. These are the 4 things that all financial advisors do. If they don't, they're doing malpractice. What's my investment objective? What's this money for? That's the first thing I have to know. What's my time horizon? When do I need this money? Do I need access to it early? Okay, because if I need access to it early, there are a lot of places where I can get a lot of advantages, but then I can't touch that money until I'm 60 years old, basically. Will my standard of living be affected if I lose some of this money? So is my investment really like my grocery money, or is my investment extra money that I've been able to set aside that I won't miss? Retirement planning. Who's going to retire in the next 10 years? Anybody in here going to retire in the next 10 years? Len's like... Do you know what your number is? Retirement.
Oh, no, not yet. We reached the 5-year goal that we planned.
Good.
But we still aren't retiring yet.
Totally. So I like that you had a 5-year goal. Not to put you on the spot, but I really recommend that you know what that number is that you need to be able to retire with. Because if you know what the number is, $1 million, $2 million, $100,000, I don't know what your number is. But whatever your number is, you can't retire until you get to that number, and you can't get to that number if you don't know what it is. And that goes for everybody here, not just people who are about to retire. If you had decided 10 years ago that you were going to do more, or you knew what you knew now, could you be in a better spot?
I think we're probably in an okay spot.
Yeah.
Yeah, now, and
But if you had
it's
done,
just finding the right person.
that's absolutely.
To come and take over.
But if you knew what you knew now, would you be in a better spot?
No, I think we'd be just where we are.
Okay. Nobody ever tells me that, but I like it. She's being honest.
We have a financial advisor. For years.
Very good. So basically, the question is, how much do you need, right? People are shocked when they figure out, well, this is actually my number, and they knew kind of what their number was, right? Because they know, I want to be able to take a vacation, I want to have this much money, bills need to be paid right, but they don't have that number, and when they find out what that number is, they're quite shocked. And then when they find out that if they wait 5 years, it's going to be like double what it is now, they're even more shocked. Just real quick, ways that you make income in retirement. Social Security. Is anybody like here a huge fan of Social Security and you're like, I know that we're going to get it when I'm retired? Right? Or any meaningful amount, right? So employer-sponsored plans, that's a pension, that's a 401k. If you're a government worker, that's a 403b. And then personal savings, IRAs, stocks, mutual funds, bonds, cash value, life insurance. Historically, our parents and our grandparents retired on pensions, and they retired on Social Security. Social Security was never meant to be your retirement fund. It was meant to be insurance for the people who didn't make a lot of money in retirement. Employer-sponsored plans, or pension plans, were a great tool. They're no longer offered by most companies. New York Life offers one to me, but it's very hybrid. I don't see a whole lot of pensions anymore unless you're like in the military. And even then, they're going to TSP, which is just a 401k. So what are you going to do about that? Where is the majority of your income going to come? It's going to come from your own personal savings, right? Unfortunately, you're going to have to save the majority of the money that you're going to spend in retirement. One thing that you guys may be shocked to learn, or you may not be shocked to learn, the OASI, I always have a hard time with this one. Old age social insurance. It's the old age social insurance fund. And basically Social Security, as of today, is set to run out in 2034. So we have 11 years of Social Security left based on the current trajectory. So unless they change the law, there will be no more Social Security in 2034. Fewer pensions, like I said. So people always have these questions. How much do I need to save? How much will I have? How much do I need to start to cover the shortfall? Where should I put my money, and how will I be affected by my taxes? And they want to know, who can you count on? One thing that I would just like to pose to you guys is that the Bureau of Labor and Statistics says that you need to save about 65 to 75%, or you need to have about 65 to 75% of your current income in retirement. That may sound weird, but why do you think that you might need that amount in retirement versus the 100% that you need now?
Might pay off your mortgage.
So your mortgage is paid off, taxes. Anybody know about FICA? So you pay like 7.65% on all of your income. You pay a FICA tax, goes Social Security, Medicare, and all that stuff, right? If you're a business owner, you have to pay the other 7.65%. So you're more like paying 15.5% of taxes. So if you're a business owner and you're retired, now you don't have a 15% tax bill. What about your retirement savings? If you're in retirement, do you need to save for retirement? No. So that 10 to 20% of your income that you need to save for retirement, you no longer need, right? These are the products that Cody Huckins recommends to his retirement clients. I don't always just say, hey, everybody needs all 4 of these, right? But these are the 4 things that I truly believe in that will do the most right now for somebody in the next 10 years in retirement, or even somebody who's retired currently. Annuities don't sound sexy, but I guarantee you that if you saw my annuities, they would be sexy. Last thing, just estate planning, will and revocable trust. If you don't have any of these other things, you need to have a will and revocable trust. And if you care what happens to you if you're brain dead, you also need to have an advance directive. If your crystal ball was working, this is like my last slide. If your crystal ball was working and you knew that you would live a long time, I'd say buy lifetime income products, right? Like annuities, so you don't outlive your money, because annuities will guarantee you money for the rest of your life forever. If you die next week, you need to buy the most life insurance possible so you can set your family up for success. And if there was an investment that would turn out golden, I would say put all your money in it.
I love gold.
Our philosophy is that you can't know what's going to happen, you don't have a crystal ball, but you can do things without losing control, without losing sleep, and without losing your principal. There's no perfect place to put your money, even gold. There are trade-offs for everything. These are the things I want you to leave with. What do you like about where your money is? What would you change if you could? And if you knew 10 years ago what you know now, what could be different in your life? I have this little life folio sheet. This is basically a life checkup sheet for you to take home. You basically just fill it out and look at it yourself, and it tells you all of the things that you need to have, like a will revocable trust. Do I have that set up? Do I have savings for my kids set up? Do I have emergency fund? Whatever it is. This is a checkoff sheet that I have right over here. It's only for your own personal benefit. Last thing, action is power. If anybody is interested, I'm not asking you to become a client. What I'm asking you to do is fill this out and give me feedback. This is a feedback form, so you can tell me what I did wrong and you can tell me what you liked, right? So I have those feedback forms and I have tons of pens. If anyone would like to fill one out, I would totally appreciate it. Thank you, Hal. And that's it, guys. I appreciate your time. Does anybody have any questions for me before we conclude?
I don't have a question, but I have a comment.
Yeah, let's go ahead, Lynn. Oh,
At the beginning, you showed the 2 different circles.
yeah.
And one who wants to spend, then save. And then there's the savers and the spenders. I must say that I learned that 56 years ago. I'm the kind who would spend first and save last. My husband, when we got married, he's the one who would save first and then spend. So I think it helps if you're married.
Totally.
Who you're married to, and how you can work together and work through the little nuances, because sometimes you can come at loggerheads. And but it's important that you work through those things, but also that you have that balance. And I think that's what it is.
Yeah.
He balances me, and then I balance him.
Absolutely. Very good.
In marriages, the priorities of where the money is spent is different per gender. What you think is important, the husband doesn't think so much, and so you go through that struggle. So yes, you do have to have some type of compromise.
All right, Cody, here's a tough one.
Ooh, a tough one.
So I am relatively young, only 31, and I've been hearing my whole life, we've got 5 years, we've got 10 years until Social Security runs out. Turns out it's never run out yet.
Mm-hmm.
Why is that? Why have predictions of the end of Social Security been happening since the 90s and never happened?
Yeah, I think they've been happening since Social Security started, actually. And I think that's a really good question. The reason why is because Social Security is, at this point, super important to the well-being of our country, right? So especially now, if you look at the demographics of the workforce, right? The workforce is mostly millennials right now. There are still boomers in the workforce, but they're retiring 10,000 people per day, right? And so when you look at the amount of people in the workforce, there are more people going into Social Security than ever before, because after boomers, right, we stopped having kids at a high rate. After World War II, there were 3, 4, 5 family households, and even before that, there were 10 family households, right? Now there's usually 1 or 2 children in the household, which means that the large generation is all retiring and the young generation who's in the workforce is thinning out, right? And so because there's a vast majority of Americans who live off of Social Security, we would have a total collapse if we didn't have some sort of Social Security, because it's a domino effect, right? So a good example is just my uncle. God love him, but he was an alcoholic all his life, right? Didn't mind living under a bridge, didn't mind camping wherever on somebody's land, right? And he did that for like 30 years. He's almost 70 years old now, and he lives off of his Social Security. He gets paid $600 a month. That is his sole income because he's disabled, right? So he lives off of $600 a month, pays rent off of $600 a month, right? If that happened and he didn't have that money, where is he going to go? He's either going to be in the streets begging for money, or he's going to come live with Cody, right? And if he comes and live with Cody, that means I have somebody else to support. Not only do I have to support them just financially, but he's disabled, right? Which means I'm going to have to help him get up and down the stairs, eventually wipe his butt, everything else, right? And so it's going to take away more from the workforce if we don't have some sort of social insurance to make sure that the people who can't aren't going without. Now the problem is that we have people like me who also help you maximize your Social Security and understand how Social Security works, right? And so if I have somebody who's rich, right, I'm not going to tell them not to take their Social Security. I'm going to help them get that $2,000 or $3,000 a month, right? Because that's more non-taxable income that they can have. So the fact of the matter is, most Social Security is non-taxable unless you make a significant amount of money in retirement. The actual solution is we need to be self-sufficient. So by far and away, if America could just buy life insurance, save 10% of their income starting early, and not have babies before they're ready, we would be good.
So then why has the collapse not happened yet?
Yes, why has the collapse not happened yet? Because the government loves printing and spending money, right? And so we can continue to, whenever we come up on something, right, whenever the national debt's too high, whenever we're in trouble, right, they're just gonna, it goes on the credit card. And then it's not my problem, it's my grandkids' problem, but I don't know them, so.
Country is now at this tipping point where we're creating $40 billion a day in new debt. And in the next 3 months, between now and Christmas, the government has to borrow $776 billion just to pay its bills.
Mike, Christmas is a month and a half away.
I know. So, yeah. So
it's getting faster and faster.
We are now at a parabolic trajectory of money printing and debt issuance and borrowing and all that stuff. So.
Any other questions for Cody before we kick him, or we say thank you for an awesome presentation?
Yeah, thanks, guys.
All right, thank you, Cody.
So we can already introduce